Nopala, your own assessment of how the year has been overall for the ANC?
It was quite a hectic year, difficult, but quite fulfilling in many ways. In the first place, you remember that we started the year in the middle of an election campaign, which I think at the time of the beginning of the year were turned around. Even commentators who predicted that we're going to get 53%, 55%, were beginning to say, no, the ANC will get more than 60% because the machinery was beginning to be on the move. And the results show that we got 62.15%. And many say they try to belittle it. It's slower than last time, slower, and so on. But the reality of the matter, anything above 55% is called landslide in electoral terms. Yes.
Was the outcome of the election your proudest moment of 2014?
It was one of my proudest moments. There were a number, a few. I will give you a few of them. That is one of our proudest moments because hard work paid, engaging our people, talking to them, owning up, actually gave us the results. And subsequent to that, we've been monitoring a number of by-elections at local government level, which are actually flying in the face of the prediction that 2016 will come, the ANC will be weaker, and the by-elections reflect that we're actually growing in terms of support. But there are issues that we still have to address on our side in terms of being more open and engage our people more directly on many, many issues. The word owning up means you own when there are problems and challenges. And you explain them as such, there are problems and challenges in this area and that area. And never try to explain it away.
Are you saying then that perhaps with the benefit of hindsight, you have not been as open to your members, but by extension your voters, as you perhaps should have been?
Let me tell you where the problem is. You know, when, for example, you are attacked on everything, you must appreciate that the first instinct is to be on the defensive. And I think we should outgrow that and not be on the defensive when people unduly attack us. Let me give you an example. One day I'm opening up a Mail and Guardian and I find them reporting on the finance of the ANC. And they'd say all sorts of things. And I read this and I said, why is this newspaper not saying the ANC is but one political party that is open to its members, which accounts to the fullest? Instead, it is turned upside down and explained in the negative. But in that report, we're explaining many, many things in detail to the membership of the ANC, which is transparency. When you're transparent, you get attacked. When you're not transparent, you get attacked. And I think we should actually, in those instances, stand up and be honest and open and just explain things as they are.
Well, let's clear that one up. Is the ANC bankrupt?
The ANC is not bankrupt. Many people would think that the ANC would be bankrupt and disappear, fold. They must live their wildest dream. The ANC is around, it's going to move. Let me give you an example.
And you'll be able to pay your bills?
We pay our bills. You know, the DA in the Western Cape, we talk to the city, want a stadium, we agree with the city, the province intervenes, put all sorts of questions, pay up front, do this and do this and do this. The reality of the matter is that we are going to have that rally in the Western Cape. Because we know the discomfort of the provincial government of the Western Cape. They don't want to see black, green and gold in the city of Cape Town. If we would take that to Athlone or take it to the Boland, there would be no hassles. We must take it to the city of Cape Town and pay up. If they want us to pay up front, pay them up front, have that rally.
Have you paid them?
No, the issue is we have a rally on the 10th of January. And I'm saying to you, we'll be in Cape Town on the 10th of January.
Well, they say you still owe the ICC some money.
No, the problem is that they like building mountains out of molehills. A province, there are 9 of them, make arrangement of their conferences. And then when we want to have a national activity in Cape Town, they want to use a problem they had with the provincial structure of the ANC as an excuse. We have all provincial structures. The structure here in the Eastern Cape, make its own arrangement, run its conferences. It goes to the University of Port Elizabeth, run a conference there. It's never a national issue. It's a provincial arrangement. That is the issue.
Let me take you back then to where we started, SG, and that was your reflection on what happened in 2014. You did say that you felt, as the ANC, that you were being attacked unduly, as you put it. With the benefit of hindsight, what could you have done as the ANC? One, to be forthright and open with South Africans and with your members. And two, what could you have done that perhaps could have or would have changed the fortunes of the ANC in the with regard to the May 7 election?
I want to talk to you about two things that I always reported in the negative. You have an issue about Ngandla. Everybody shout Ngandla, pay back the money, pay back the money. And when that happens, you are in that theater. What suffers is how processes work. South Africans fail to understand how processes work because it should be treated with emotions rather than following the processes, wait for the outcome. You know, the ANC, end of last year, said to the ministers, you can't classify that interministerial report, declassify it, release it. They released it. And I think that was the best thing we ever did on that issue.
And you don't think it was too little too late?
It was not too little too late because once you released that report, the debate changed totally because you changed the debate from a terrain of snippets and leaks. You give the report, you open it up, and people begin to discuss that. By the time you release the public protector's report, you can actually compare notes and actually explain to people in terms of that report that, listen, the public protector herself says the president private residence has not been paid by public fund. The public is satisfied with the bond and everything. And you can explain that, listen, what is not shown on the picture in SABC and other television is actually where that cost went in terms of the government infrastructure. Once you see that, which people are not shown, you will know that the biggest problem there is inflation of prices, extremely so, and deal with the problem. But if you don't want to deal with that problem, you want to deal with what is emotional appealing, you are not going to resolve the problem because prices will be inflated in Ghana, they will be inflated in a hospital in Kimberley, they will be inflated in a hospital in the Eastern Cape, and that is what we should be dealing with there because inflation of prices. And when we say, but in the processes, who are the officials who are responsible for this? When you deal with them, they are called scapegoats. The reality of the matter, I wanted to go to even a municipality. Half the time, politicians are at a loss in terms of what is happening in those processes because law prohibits politicians to be in tender processes. Officials do that, and when we say arrest the officials who are corrupt, you are saying arrest them if they have been instructed by a politician. They must say so. It must not be assumed generally that when a bureaucrat in the public sector steals money, he steals that money because a politician says so. Half the time, officials get very rich, and you find politicians who are as poor as church mice. Now, if you don't address that issue openly, you will deal with perceptions. But Sisulu advises us very well on that issue, that perceptions left unattended are more dangerous than facts.
Well, by the way, actually, it wasn't for lack of trying. We did, and the ANC once, in fact, promised us, Keith Koza, that he would take us to Nkandla, which of course never happened. So perhaps we would have been able to show what we were supposed to show from.
In any way, journalists will not be taken by the ANC. Journalists have a duty.
Well, it's a security point. We're told we couldn't, and we tried the ANC
Don't go
route.
to the security point. go to the infrastructure outside the security point, and you'll see the inflation in real terms.
Okay. Let's go back to that issue, if I may. If you go to the social networks, if you look at what people say whenever they are prepared to give an opinion on this, it's what to many is a logical thing. That if you own a house and then someone does something in your house, you should be able to say, I didn't do that, I didn't author, I didn't want that, or this is what so-and-so did. And the sense that people have is that the president did not come clean on it the way they perhaps expected him to.
No. You see, public opinion is something different for you. So a judge goes through a court and find a person not guilty of murder but culpable of homicide. Go to the social media. Social media will say, no, that is not culpable of homicide, it's murder. To get my point? That's how it works, because people don't judge things according to rules. They judge things according to feelings. And if the world can be ruled in terms of feelings, there will be nothing left of it. That's how it is. It goes through the processes. Now it has gone through the parliament. Still, people are not happy and so forth. But that is how those processes go. A report goes to this institution, it passes that institution, it goes to the next institution, it passes. And that's why, if you have noticed, the ANC always emphasizes that allow the process to take their course. Once processes take their course, the ANC keeps quiet. Because what we are avoiding is to give ourselves authority we don't have of being an enforcer of those processes. Once those processes are gone, they're gone.
So from where the ANC, from where you sit, the ANC, from the president down, has done or did everything it possibly could to deal with the Ngandla matter. In other words, even with the benefit of hindsight, you can't say maybe there we could have done things differently.
The ANC must never give itself the powers it doesn't have. This is a constitutional democracy. It is having democratic institutions, and those institutions must be given the respect they deserve to do what they should do, and not be selective about it, that this one is more important than that one. All those institutions are important.
What was the ANC's worst moment of 2014?
You know, the ANC is a dynamic organization. It goes and goes. I don't know if you have noticed that for the first time in a long time, the ANC dissolved 3 municipalities, almost at the same time, because these municipalities become total dysfunctional. Those are the worst moments, because the ANC at the beginning of the year committed itself to give our people service of quality. Now, once the municipality cannot do that and we dissolve 3, it's a serious intervention, but it is also important in the sense that you are saying to our people, we are not prepared to tolerate non-performance and non-delivery. And actually, it was the biggest shock in our structures when we dissolved a district municipality, we dissolved 2 local municipalities, and people, they almost fought with us, and we say, no, you can fight us, it's fine, but it is the right thing to do.
But what is that saying about the state of your organization? 3 municipalities have had to be dissolved. You've just come back from a region, the Nelson Mandela region. There's problems in the eThekwini region, postponing elective conferences.
No. Let me tell you what it says about our structures. It says, our structures are on the alert. When something is dysfunctional, it gets attended to. That's the message. We do many things. Before we reach that point, we do many things. If you are following us, we have been to those 3 municipalities many times, trying to say to them, comrade, correct this, correct that, do better here, address this issue. For example, one municipality was a candidate, Matibeng, in the northwest. We intervened there, we changed things, and it became stable. That's why it is not one of the three municipalities. Because before we take it into dissolve, we do intervene. Nelson Mandela, we've been there how many times? Many, many times. But we say, but you are not showing the urgency that is necessary to deal with the situation. Let's work together to correct this situation. This structure will be dissolved, but we're giving you just up to the beginning of January when we're coming back to show cause why you should not be dissolved, and we replace you with a structure that will work here. And again, we say to them, when we come back, tell us why is the leadership of the municipality the right leadership? Because yes, we brought here Ben Fittler, a very respected a veteran of the ANC. When he came there is stability in P now. Those running battles of a mayor and a chairperson chasing each other has disappeared. But we say, yes, stability now there, but we need now to take the municipality to a state of forward mobility. That is what we're doing, and we should do that all the time, because social problems for you are not natural problems. You don't mix water and syrup and produce a drink. You see, you must be persistent, you must be consistent, and you must correct this. If you think you apply a particular method, it doesn't work, you must adapt it. That's how you deal with them.
Now, if you look at the problems of, say, Nelson Mandela Bay, eThekwini, the municipalities you've had to...
eThekwini.
Is there a common
Can I give you a difference about eThekwini? eThekwini is no problem. eThekwini is one of the best performing metros, by the way. Even in terms of the electoral support, it grew. That's eThekwini. Don't confuse problems with complications that goes with elections. You know, when you go to an elective conference in the ANC, the main thing that you must comply with, and you don't break those rules. One, you must have your branches having gone to branch general meetings. At least 70% of those branches must have qualified to go to a conference. If you don't meet that threshold, we will not allow that conference to go ahead. Okay? Even if conferences are in a hurry because they are tense, they want to contest and get elected, you are now at 62% of the branches that have qualified. You do the remaining 8%, stop that conference. That's how we work. And that is, again, a way of ensuring that there is a fail-safe method in dealing with your structures. So don't categorize eThekwini as a problematic region.
So what is the difference in the kinds of problems that they have between eThekwini and Nelson Mandela Bay, for example?
Nelson Mandela, for example, divisions were quite clear, right to the bottom. And as a result of that, those divisions overflew into the municipality, and everything came to a standstill. That is what we should address. We've been trying to work on it. We must now take a more drastic step to deal with it.
Whereas eThekwini?
eThekwini, there's no dysfunctionality in eThekwini, in the region of the ANC and in the municipality. There are tensions now because they are contesting each other to a regional conference. So that is a natural thing to happen when you go to an elective conference. People get themselves into groups and they have preferences and they fight. But what we are avoiding there, those fights must not impact on the processes that will ensure that we run a proper regional conference.
Let's talk about the ANC's performance in Parliament. Are you happy, satisfied that your cadres there are doing a good job?
One of the things that has happened after May 7 was the total reconfiguration of Parliament. You had new players. What we saw there was that anarchy and destruction was used as a method of destabilizing Parliament. I must confess that at the beginning, members of the ANC in Parliament were a little bit puzzled and taken aback until they realized that, listen, let's be firm in dealing with this area. I'm happy with that. Let me tell you why they were puzzled. Because they understand Parliament to be a creature of rules. Now, but rules are meant for normal people. When you apply rules to abnormal people, rules fail. And the duty of the ANC is to ensure that the rules are applied to the latter and enforced. That's it. Once they begin to do that, there will be stability in Parliament. I think we're getting to that stage now. I'm comfortable with that.
So
Where you will see the Parliament having problems, you see a situation where you see the opposition forming unholy alliances. You see. For example, if you take the red berets and you take the blue T-shirts and you say they are in alliance, ideologically they are poles apart. But they are only agreeing on one thing, that try to destabilize the ANC as much as you can. And then you begin to see a leader of the day in Parliament trying to be rowdier than the leader of the red berets.
So
when you do that, you begin to see my man walking around in borrowed gowns. Instead of wearing a blue gown, he's trying to wear a red gown. And everybody notices that that is a borrowed gown.
in other words, you're convinced in your own mind that no one from the ANC created the sort of ground that would be fertile for those other people to actually do what they have been doing.
Take, for example,
the issue
that is used now as failure to answer questions. If I'm going to Parliament to answer questions, I'm allowed to answer questions. And if you have a follow-up question, you have to ask that follow-up question. The Speaker will allow you that. That's why if you listen to parliamentary debate, they will always ask, is the person speaking prepared to take questions? And if they say yes, he will take the questions. If not, no, because there are rules. But if you break those rules, you just howl. There is no intention on your part to actually have the questions answered. You can't blame a person, therefore, who is a victim of that rowdiness and hooliganism as responsible for the situation.
Now, great majority of South Africans would agree with you that Parliament deserves our respect, and the MPs there should conduct themselves properly and in better ways than they are doing at the moment. Now, the Deputy President of the ANC, who's also leader of government business, comes in, strikes some arrangement, deal with opposition parties. It collapses the next day. What happened there?
No, it doesn't collapse. Some opposition parties renege on the package agreed upon. Now, you can't blame the person who talked to them, that we all agree, because you have a person with no authority going to that meeting. And my man goes there, confirm, okay, right, we'll do X, Y, and Z. When he goes to Dorp Street, he's shouted down like a small boy, and he changes that. That is where the discussion should start. Go to, why do you commit yourself on something you can't execute? Don't. If you are a messenger, you have to go and get a yes in Dorp Street. Please go to Dorp Street first before you make a commitment. If you don't do that, you're going to cause chaos, because people will take you in good faith and respect and think that there's an agreement. When you break it, then it's broken. Once it is broken, rules go back to the original place. But another thing that we should also be careful of, the DP, as the leader of government business, must engage the opposition parties. But that should never replace the institutional processes of an institution called Parliament. Parliament should be totally independent of whatever interventions are made by the executive.
Is it the ANC's view that the Deputy President perhaps crossed the line in that instance?
No, he did not. He did the right thing. But the opposition tried to bargain for a situation where that process should undermine Parliament. And it can't be done.
And the reports that members of the ANC were actually not happy, in fact, were the very people who were unhappy about that.
I don't know. You see, sometimes you talk from sources. Now, sources, and for whisper to general, they never talk to in the ANC. Even if you go to a caucus, they keep quiet and whisper to the ears of journalists. I always disregard that as a rumor, as a conversation in the Tribune. It's not my business.
So there were no rumblings within the ANC about the Deputy President's intervention? There were no rumblings in the ANC structures, including the parliamentary caucus. Now let's move on then to the your alliance partner, COSATU.
Yes.
The ANC became involved in trying to resolve the disputes within COSATU. What actually happened? From where you sit as the ANC, what broke the camel's back within COSATU, in particular around the NUMSA issue?
No, the reality of the matter is that if you read the ANC task team report and you see what came out of the COSATU CEC, you see that it's two parallel processes. Did the report, gave them, look at this report, use it to try and get solutions, because the ANC is not a principal of COSATU. COSATU is independent, it's autonomous, it's a trade union federation, it takes its own decision. But when we intervene, we are actually contributing to help them find solutions. But if they put aside that report and say, when we last met, these were items on there, let's go back to them. That formula is going to cause problems, because you are going to ignore what came out of the process and deal with the issues as you see them. Then, as a result of that, people break into factions, clearly, and fight it out. The worst thing that can happen to COSATU is where communists think that they can go and fight it out, whether it is in a Congress or a special Congress or any structure. If they go to that structure with a sole purpose of fighting it out and test their power, they are going to destroy the federation. And if NUMSA, as the biggest affiliate of the federation, doesn't appreciate the responsibility that goes with being a biggest, because that responsibility, I was listening to the NUM at a time when it was the biggest. One of the responsibility is to try and reach out for the weak and the smaller.
Do you think NUMSA is not doing that?
No, NUMSA has its own program, its own agenda. It is pushing ahead with it. It doesn't care how the others feel. Until it changes that approach, it will not be contributing to the unity of the federation. Because even if it talks to the ANC, when they say, you want to form a united front, go ahead, do it if you want to. It's not the issue here. The most important thing here is to keep the federation united. They don't talk about that. They talk about ANC, neoliberal this, neoliberal that. And they say, when you do that, you are going to miss the ball all the time.
And they fingered you as one of the people who are actually not helping the situation.
No, you see, I describe that as a question who is suffering from a chronic disease, and who blame witches for the chronic disease. If I have blood pressure or I have a diabetes, and I say I'm bewitched, you will know that I'm not prepared to do anything to correct my situation and deal with what is called a lifestyle condition. I will be believing that there's some witch inside some corner. The reality of the matter is that no Secretary General of the ANC can celebrate division of COSATU unless your head needs serious examination.
But what about the role played by those that is something better is expected of them, like the NUM, your former union? Do you think? I mean, if you look at what happened in Marikana, if you look at what happened over the past year in the Platinum Belt, what does it tell you about the NUM?
I don't want to be a spokesman for the NUM. I was in that union for 23 years. Now, to say when I have left the union and try to be its spokesperson, that will be very cheeky of me. I should not do that. But the reality of the matter is that if you see the offensive on the broad liberation movement, NUM as a very staunch supporter of the Congress movement as a union wouldn't escape that offensive. That's all I can say. But what they do and what they don't do, I can't be in a position to give those details. But if there's an offensive on the liberation movement, a union like the NUM can't escape it.
Are you saying the NUM never dropped the ball at all? Because that's the view of some people, that the reason you have what you have in the Platinum Belt, the reason you have an AMCU today is because, in part, not solely, the NUM dropped the ball.
AMCU was formed in 1998. Okay. It never caused chaos.
No, the reason you have it the way it is now.
No. It was formed in 1998. It has revived itself now. redesigned itself. It is giving the NUM difficult times. But all I'm saying is that if you want to have a detailed view on that issue, get Franz Baleni or Pete Matosa. They will talk to you on those issues. Because if I try to talk about that, again, you're opening him up to attack that, oh, Mantashe is still an NUM loyalist. I'm coming from there. I know what you do when you're contesting a space. If you allow it to be intruded in, you are going to have difficult problem to reverse that situation. But I don't want to speak for the NUM.
Is the ANC not worried at all that what is happening within COSATU will have a negative impact on the ANC itself?
The first one is not on the ANC. The first effect is that that federation is a hope for many working people in the country. If it continues the way it has, confidence of working people on that important vehicle is going to decline. And that's what worries us most. Others will be consequences of a weakened federation.
But I mean, as a leader of society, you have to have an active and very direct interest.
No, the ANC is in alliance with those working class formations, not by accident, by design. When any of them gets weaker, the ANC will feel the impact of that directly on it. But all I'm saying is that the biggest problem should not be a selfish interest of the ANC. It should be that federation should be what it is supposed to be. It should be having all the confidence of our people all the time. Once our people, particularly working people, lose confidence in that vehicle, we are in trouble. Particularly in a country where trade union density is very low. It worries a great deal on us because that federation has a big room to expand and grow and be a huge, giant federation. Only about 9–10% of South Africa belong to trade unions. Big part of it belong to nowhere. And trade unions must organize there. But if they focus on rivalry, they will not organize the most needing and the most vulnerable.
Now, we're going into an election in just over a year's time, local government election. There have been reports, and some of them attributed to you, about you being worried that the ANC may lose support, and you need to be frank about the challenges that are confronting the party.
You are referring to the Mail and Guardian article?
In part, yes.
Yes, which is, if you read the headline and you read the content, are two different articles. The headline is for selling papers. The content is trying to talk to a report they stole of the ANC and got it by some devious means. And they read that. All we're saying that in that report, we're analyzing election results in the region. And we said, look at Mozambique. Frelimo has dropped dramatically, ended up with the presidency being at 57%, and we gave details of that analysis. And what worried us that we're highlighting there, not on the losing, but on the offensive, on the liberation movement, was the funding of NGOs who ultimately formed themselves into a party. That took a chunk of support among young people. And we say, if you look into that trend, you see the same trend in Botswana. When you look into the BDP, and the opposition parties got into an umbrella body that was heavily funded, got a lot of foreign funding to support them, because in terms of our erstwhile colonizers, BDP has been in power for too long. They must support that umbrella body. And we pointed at Sao Tome, and that is what we do all the time, to look into what's happening in the region. And we're saying the same applies to us. If you look into a number of social democratic parties who used to work with us, many of them are beginning to say this liberation movement are too strong. They want a working democracy. To them, a working democracy when you have a 51, 52% majority, or you are governing through a coalition. And we say, you can't impose that on our situation. Our conditions are different.
But I mean, you and I spoke a bit on this issue when you hosted the Secretaries General of SWAPO,
Yes.
of the MPLA,
Yes.
And so on. But what one never got a sense of was whether, as liberation movement, what used to call ourselves, liberation movement or former liberation movements, was whether you are accepting complicity in this. In other words, you have as much responsibility as you say some foreign funders are in sponsoring your opposition.
That is not what we're saying. What we are saying is that there is something else when there's foreign funding directed at destabilizing. We have a responsibility to keep stability. That's what we're doing. That's why if you take, for example, SWAPO, it has one election with an increased majority. Because when something happens in one country, we come together and look at it and say, how do we avoid that, and see if it works next door. And then SWAPO won with an increased majority. ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe had almost lost power. It has come back, it has a 2/3 majority today. And many people will insult it because, not because of facts, because they think that ZANU-PF should not be in power, emotional again, typical of South Africans. And all this thing happened because when ZANU-PF almost loses power and they are advised to get into a government of national unity, one of the things that they must appreciate is that they are given space to regroup, revisit their weaknesses, address them, and when they come back with better performance, we say this sharing of notes does help. So it's not because we don't take responsibility, we do take responsibility. We also accept the fact that mistakes that are happening within the liberation movement, which we describe in South Africa as sins of incumbency, contribute to the problem that we're having. The more we address them, the better. That's why we say sometimes when we do well, we get distracted by sad shows. And those sad shows sometimes are very costly to the liberation movement. And that's why it becomes important for us to always do that analysis, reflect on what we're doing.
What side show distracted you this year?
Many things. Whether you deal with everywhere, whether a liberation movement, that ascended to power, then you begin to deal with real corruption and perceived corruption, because they are equally important. You deal with the question of gatekeeping, where people begin to select people who must join the party. You deal with a situation where people actually form themselves into factional groupings that are there, almost sitting there, almost formalized. When you do that, the liberation movement is going to be weaker and weaker and weaker. Then when you have destabilizing forces coming in, you are going to be destabilized. Then you're going to see section of the media, when they write stories, they will exaggerate it. Whether, yesterday, somebody read the headline of the Mail and Guardian, refused me. What is happening here? I'm told that you're admitting that we'll lose power. And I asked the person, have you read the article? No. I said, please read the article. When you finish reading that, come back to me. He didn't come back to me. Because the content in the article was based on that stolen report, was sending a different message to the ANC, admitting that it will lose power at some point.
So you're saying that it is because you are dealing with corruption, it is because you are dealing with problems of factionalism that you often get weakened?
Many other problems that go with a liberation movement that is now a ruling party. It meets all sorts of challenges. One, lack of experience, many other things, mistakes, and those mistakes do impact on the outlook of the liberation movement. And if we say they don't, we'll be in denial.
So I'm saying then, okay, irrespective of the origins, right? of those problems or the side shows and who's behind some of the people who may be giving you a bit of a tough time. Are you worried that come the 2016 local government election, the ANC is going to have problems, particularly in areas like Ekurhuleni, in areas like the Nelson Mandela Metro, Johannesburg?
Actually, people are going to be surprised because that's what they are dreaming about. The ANC appreciate the fact that we're dealing with real life here. We engage with our people. When there are problems, we deal with them. And that's why you find out that when people think that we're going to be dismal, we come up more. I can tell you, come 2016, we'll improve our performance in all those municipalities. It's even better at local government because more important will be the selection of candidates. If you get the right candidates, you win elections in local government. And many other issues, because if you go to Ekurhuleni in Johannesburg, you can't say those municipalities are not performing in terms of service delivery. Deal with the perception and the views that are out there. You will get the voters supporting you.
What do you think is responsible for those perceptions? Why would people not vote for the ANC in a municipality, as you say, that is delivering?
No.
What lies at the heart of that discontent?
You see, if you listen to Gauteng, Gauteng as a province is still dealing with the question for them of e-tolls. To get my point. I always get blame of saying you defend it. I say, no, I'm not defending e-tolls. But the debate there is too narrow. It deals with the mode of payment. It doesn't deal with Gauteng that has delivered world-class infrastructure. And I think the intervention of the Premier of Gauteng is trying to actually get into the heart of that issue. But at the heart of everything is that Gauteng, you know, I was driving from Stutterham to here. That road from Stutterham right into town in King William's Town doesn't have a yellow line. You know that? Doesn't have a yellow, it means it has no shoulder. If one reckless driver overtakes on a barrier line, you are either going to drive your car outside or you are going to have a head-on collision because it has no barrier line. Now, in Gauteng, if I drive to Pretoria, I'm driving a 6-lane one side, 6-lane down. And we're not having that debate of what do we do to sustain the world-class infrastructure there, maintain it, continue to improve it. And I always tell people who are in Gauteng, I say, I was born in the Eastern Cape, a province called the home of the legends. And I said to them, that is a euphemism for exporting brains. That's what it does. And Gauteng is the smart city region. Smart city region. Because it is an integrated province in terms of infrastructure. One, you drive from one area to the next. If you are from Ekurhuleni, you are in Joburg. Only you knows that you are now in Joburg. And you go to Tswana, they are closing that gap, Yosemite. And that's it. That is what we should talk about, that we must continue improving Gauteng into that hub, economic hub of the country. But we're not. We're now fighting on it all because it all is some additional cost. For the middle class, it matters because many of them are young professionals who have just bought a house, a townhouse, a car. Now you add it all and that, and it makes a big difference.
Do their concerns matter to you?
They do. They do. But the issue is, if they are mattering, it doesn't mean that you should just be running for cover every time. You should engage them so that you have a more detailed, fundamental discussion with the middle class.
Okay, whatever your position, do you not think that the way you are handling the e-toll issue is in fact going to cost you in Johannesburg and in Ekurhuleni? Irrespective of whether, no matter how good an argument you put up.
The province is dealing with that matter. It will ultimately come back to a debate in the ANC. But the saddest thing that can happen, and that is one thing that we've been saying, that when we deal with that issue between the national leadership and the province, we must not have a public poster that counterposes the national leadership and the provincial leadership, because that is what will cost us. What will not cost us, what will help us think through, is when Gauteng does that, they don't call it review, they call it assessment of socio-economic impact. When they do that impact, ideally they should complete with the report, come to the national structures of the ANC, table their case, and come with suggestion on this is how we should be dealing with this matter. That way is you are doing the correct thing, you are doing what you should do. But once you put a poster that counterposes the national and the provincial leadership, so that people begin to say, the devils are in the national leadership, these are angels, when actually it is a provincial program in any way. It all is a provincial program, that's why it is not here. It is not in any of the other 8 provinces, because it has always been a provincial program which goes with the BRT and Gauteng all the time. It's about infrastructure in Gauteng, which is a noble idea. I hope in the process of discussing it all, will not destroy the correctness of developing world-class infrastructure in Gauteng.
So irrespective of what happens beyond this point, whether you manage, let's say you don't manage to convince your middle class, especially like people who are in jobs for the first time, young and ambitious and who want every cent they can get in their own pockets. Say you don't win the argument that says look at it as an infrastructure issue. They say whatever the issues are, irrespective of the position that you hold, we are not convinced, we think the ANC is responsible for this, and for that we're going to punish it come the 2016 election.
The ANC is responsible for developing world-class infrastructure in Gauteng, including improving OR Tambo Airport, easy to travel at peak hour. The ANC take that responsibility. The ANC, as a governing party, will be indebted for that. It will have to allow that debate to happen. But I don't think there can be middle class that will punish the ANC. We must engage them, talk to them, because they are intellectuals. They think we must engage them all the time. And if that assessment of the Gauteng provincial government says, let's make adaptation in this area, in this area, in this area, we are going to listen to them and engage them. Is it workable? Will it work? Will it stop the program? Will it kill the momentum? Or will it help us do better? Because at the end of the day, that same middle class in Gauteng is always requiring better and better infrastructure. You know, I wish you can take just R21, put it in Ghana. You know, you see, if you can just put R21, put it in Ghana, and we drive there.
Well, the opposition, the 2 opposition parties, the DA and the EFF, say you are in for a taking come 2016 because of it all and, of course, other issues.
No, you see, they say so 2016. It's not because they didn't want to take Gauteng in 1994 and 1999. They always wanted to take it. That is what they want all the time. So it's a political posture that should be taken by opposition. And I will be telling you lie if we say we don't want the Western Cape and the city of Cape Town come 2016. I will be telling you lies because that is our business to govern. And we want to govern every piece of the country, and we must work hard for it. Every political party, even a party with 1 seat in parliament, is dreaming of governing South Africa.
Do you think the EFF stands a chance?
I don't know. I don't want to speak for the EFF. I am not a member of the Red Berets, you know. But I can see what is happening in their congresses. They're beginning to fight. They're beginning to have a taste of what we always knew, okay? And what they're tasting is what's going to undo them, okay? But it is not my business to talk for them. Our view is that we must work hard so that people of South Africa continue to support the liberation movement.
The DA continues to grow with every election.
But that's not true. In the local government elections, they dropped. Okay. They were growing. In the 2011 elections, they dropped. Actually, this year's elections, they performed worse than 2011. People don't say that because they want to create a picture which is psychological that the DA is ever growing. Actually, the DA dropped from 2011 to 2014. That's why they were projecting themselves to get to 30%. Instead, they dropped further down. Nobody says that because it is taboo to criticize the DA. It is rewarded if you criticize the ANC.
So, when everything has been said and done, 2014 was a good year, notwithstanding the problems that you have.
It was a good year.
And you had to confront as the ANC.
It was a good year. Actually, we must work hard to continue improving what we're doing. And the other thing that we must take for another day, I appreciate the fact that the ANC set minimum standards. When everybody meets that minimal standard, it is going to be more difficult for the ANC to differentiate itself. For example, everybody all of a sudden are non-racial, everybody are non-sexist, everybody are democratic. Even if you look closely to their practice, they are not. But in principle, they accept those minimum standards set by the ANC. The more of them accept it, the more it will require the ANC to think more innovatively to differentiate itself.
So what trouble then was the ANC talking about, the ANC president talking about at the Youth League conference?
Again, that is a question of reporting that is not putting things in context. The president explained in the Youth League conference that we allowed the Youth League to go down this route for too long. We intervened a bit late. By the time we intervened, we tried to discipline them. They were seeing it as tradition to do things as they were. And therefore, once the Youth League is in trouble, the ANC is in trouble. Because its future is reflected on its Youth League. And therefore, because the Youth League is in trouble, we cannot be not in trouble. We're in trouble. It's like when COSATU is in trouble. If we say we're not in trouble, it is COSATU. We are actually dreaming because that is our ally. If it is weakened, we'll be weakened. If the Youth League of the ANC is in trouble, we are deeper into trouble. That's why it is in the interest of the ANC to ensure that by the time the Youth League elects its leadership, there is a clear effort of rebuilding a more formidable and a thinking Youth League, so that it assumes its role of being a critical body of opinion within the ANC.
And that's why you intervened as he was making that point.
No, when we didn't intervene on that point, again, people didn't even see the note that we gave the president. They didn't hear what we are saying. But they write stories in pages of newspapers. That's what we intervened on.
What was on the note?
What was on the note was that don't forget to explain the decision to convert the conference from an elective conference into a consultative conference.
Kabulela Lopana.
Enkosi, 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 enkosi.